Right, you may or may not know already from research that actually many of these romantic poets were sort of hung around together and were heavily involved in each other's lives and mentored each other. Now, Wordsworth's mentor was Coleridge. Coleridge was also a poet, but he did fancy himself as a bit of a philosopher as well. But he saw in the talent of Wordsworth somebody whose poetry could philosophise. And as we often say, the most important thing you do through writing is you have a viewpoint, you have something to say. So he was actually given a little project by Coleridge, and he was asked, he was empowered with going out and experiencing things and commenting on man, nature, and society. That was his brief, and that's really helpful to us when dealing with sort of wider context. We can't necessarily write about that in an exam. We wouldn't go on and on about Coleridge being his mentor, but it is worth knowing from the very beginning, in that important knowledge of writer's intentions and what these poems are about, that we knew his brief was to discuss the impact of man, nature, and society. So that already gives us a good foothold. And also, on another note, you would probably like to know that Wordsworth would have been the master of the blue and green pen, because he did like to redraft. He saw the value in it. He wrote, as we know, 14 books of this epic poem, and yet he went back years later and he redrafted it. He had another go at something that wasn't actually published until after his death. It was posthumous. But that shows you the kind of attention to detail that the Romantics gave their work, and they felt what they were writing about was really grand. I think it's, if we know that it's about man, nature, and society, part of that we recognise that man, in this case being people, humans, we look back at this and it very much is about childhood and awakening. Wordsworth was 28 when he wrote this, so it's quite an achievement. But the speaker, although they are a man, the speaker is a man looking back at an experience from his childhood, an experience of awakening that changes him forever, an experience that has put a sort of stamp on him and has affected him in many ways. So keep that in mind. So one summer evening, led by her, I found a little boat tied to a willow tree. I mean, this is reflective of Wordsworth kind of childhood. So where he lived, Wordsworth, he was surrounded with acres and acres and acres of wilderness, and that's reflected in his kind of childhood, which was of sort of wildness and freedom. And that is reflected in the earlier part of a poem, when they would go off, boys, and steal birds' eggs from nests, and steal boats even, and just do these kind of naughty things with wild abandon. And when you look at this line just from that point of view, so within a rocky cove, its usual home, straight I unloosed her chain. Now later on I'll talk about the metaphorical impact of that, but you could just look at it from the start, this idea of this relaxed freedom that they're going through here, the poets.